Yeah, thank you. Glad you guys came back from lunch. Nice to see you after lunch. I'm bad at languages, foreign languages. I took Latin in high school, French in college. I lived in Germany for 6 years, and I can't do any of it. So I know hardly any Spanish. Gracias is about as good as I get. So if you have English, I would appreciate you training with me on your English. It'd be great. As he said, I'm Judy Towers. Subversion and espionage directed against you. This is a presentation that I had to give while I was active duty as a counterintelligence agent in the Army for 6 years. Every soldier got this presentation to make them aware of what they were facing because they wore the uniform with U.S. Army written on it. It's not personal. It is everything to do with because you're a U.S. citizen in a foreign country and you're wearing the uniform. So this is also a movie called Bridge of the Gods. This is a true story. Those bridges do exist in Germany. I have stood on them. They're bridges between Czechoslovakia and Germany, former East Germany and Germany. And in the middle of the bridge is the border crossing, and you can stand there and wave at the guards on the other side, and they'll take your picture. But this is a true story. It's a very good movie, Bridge of the Gods. It's very good. It kind of motivated me a little bit. Oh, stop. I had music going, so anyway. I wanted you to be aware that this is not what you're going to see. Okay? And this is not what you're going to see. I'm sorry. Espionage, if you're lucky, it looks like that. If you're lucky, it looks like that. The rest of us, it's me, you, collecting information. I'm sorry. But when I got motivated by this, I went to a conference called DerbyCon in Kentucky, and the human hacker had a social engineering village, and I'm like, social engineering, you know, that's such a, and you know, everybody falls victim to it. And so I sat in there and listened to the red teamers. Oh, how many of you are willing to admit you are a red teamer? I see 2 hands, 3. Honest, I appreciate your honesty. 4. The rest of you are probably lying. So you're all collecting information. So we were sitting there, and after they did a session, he had an impromptu session where they were asking questions. Red teamers were talking about their integrity issues because they said, you know, if I do my job well, you fail. When I do my job, it's social engineering you fail. I succeed. And he was getting upset because he's like, at one of the events, he goes, I had to do a bank. We had to get into the server room. So instead of going to the corporate office, we went out to one of the branches. And he said, I got there so early that I watched all the employees walking in. I profiled all the employees, and I knew which one I was going to go talk to when I walked in, and he did. And he picked out one of the women. He went to her. He was dressed in khaki, and he said a button-down shirt. He looked like it was from corporate, right? He wasn't liking anybody coming off the street. So he walked up to her and he said, I want to open up an account. Can I, you know, she said, I can help you. That's my job. Let me help you out. So she took him over to the side, started working on the paperwork, and he goes, can I go to the bathroom? And she goes, yes, down the hall. When you're done, come back and see me and we'll finish the paperwork. So I guess about 10 minutes later, he comes out of the bathroom. Instead of coming back to her, he saw an empty office. So he went in there and sat down. He was in there for an hour hacking on their network before somebody came up and asked him, what are you doing? And the bank manager came by and he's like, what are you doing? And that's when they found out he had been hacking on their network for an hour and nobody had questioned him. What they did is they fired the teller because she didn't keep an eye on him. She was doing her job. Now, when I heard the story, I got a little upset because I'm like, you fired her for the reasons you hired her. She was friendly, she was outgoing, she was customer focused. How can I help you? What can I do for you? I'm going to engage with you. Were you going to hire an introvert to do that job? Someone who's only going to be in front of a computer, I don't like people, don't talk to me, I'm not going to help you. No, you hired somebody that was an extrovert. And that is what social engineering took advantage of. But they fired her. And that's when I got upset and mad. You didn't do it right. You didn't train her right. You didn't teach her what she was going to face. on her job. And I didn't think that was fair, that they should fire her for something that's the reason they hired her for. So that's when I was driving home, and that's when I realized this is why I was a counterintelligence agent, and that's why I do cyber now. Who would have ever thought, when I got out a gazillion years ago out of the Army, that's how old I am, that I would be able to bring counterintelligence into a business environment? Used to, I thought I could only work for the CIA, FBI, DOD, military, right? They were the only ones who needed intelligence. They're the only ones who needed counterintelligence until today. And now today, they are hiring people with my skill set and putting them in a business. And we're doing the exact same thing. I'm producing the exact same reports, intelligence reports, and I'm giving them to the business. Same thing. It's a new world, it's great. This is something that motivated me also at the same time when I was going through figuring out, why this is why I'm doing all this. But this is what I thought was what we need. Instead of security awareness, we need behavioral change. You go through most compliance in the US, I'm not sure about here, but in the US, you get a year of security awareness training that is supposed to last you all year when you go back to your desk job. Don't click on links, don't pay attention to who you're talking to. You get an hour of that, and that is compliance training. How many of you, and I've been guilty of it, did my training and went back and clicked on a link on an email, and I didn't pay attention to who it came from, right? So what we want, but this is what motivated me. If you can find his blog by Ben, it was awesome, because he talks about we want your behavior to change, not your security awareness, because honestly, if it had changed, we wouldn't be here, right? You wouldn't click on the links, and you wouldn't go out to your mom and pop gardening centers and click on those links and then introduce ransomware into your environment, right? So we really want a behavioral change, and this is, I threw this in here. It's to motivate you, get you interested in it, because I think this is what we need, is behavioral InfoSec, not security awareness. Awareness is not cutting it when you go back to your desk. Your job is a 8-hour job to do your job. Now, granted, a red teamer, that is your 8-hour job. And it's me against you, right, red teamer? You're going to win because I'm distracted doing my day-to-day job. Red teamer, your job is to make sure you get your information. We'll go over some more of that. Social engineering, I thought that was a relatively new term. I was shocked to find out it had been around since the 1800s. I thought it was, social engineering, I thought that was, but anyway, we'll keep going. But human hacker, let's come back. Human hacker, I would follow him. He talks about some of the ways that he's able to do the social engineering and is successful at it. He's not making a secret of what he's doing. It's not a secret. This is stuff that you can learn. But I like that he says it's any act that influences a person to take an action that may or may not be in their best interest. That's what happens to you after you do your security awareness training. You go back to your desk and you forget about what you just learned for the last hour. Tomorrow, the next day, in a few months, you're so busy doing your job, everybody sends you an email, click, click, click. And this is another one. Hide and seek. I suggest you follow her on Twitter. She tells what she does and how she's good at it. And I'm sorry, guys, women are better at social engineering than you are, because we take advantage of you. And that's what she talks about. She does a very good job of this. But what got me is this was a blog. I took this from her blog, what she talks about, what she does. She goes, I've done lock picking, climbing over walls, hopped barbed wire fences, and I get to go dumpster diving and play with all cool sorts of tools. I was trained how to do all that as a counterintelligence agent. So you're facing an adversary that is highly skilled, highly trained, and they're going to succeed. Now, I'm trying not to make you feel defeatist, but they're very determined, and you're determined to do your job. Their job is to get that information from you. Does that make sense? They're more determined than you are. That's what I want you to understand. But I did dumpster diving. I found classified information in a dumpster in Germany when we were going for First Gulf Storm 1. They didn't shred it. It was secret information. I don't know why they didn't think about shredding it, but it was in the dumpster. We found it. I learned how to do lock picking so we could change the locks on safes. The new digital stuff, we didn't teach us how to do that. That was after my generation. But I know how to do some of that. All right, that's only on classified safes, not any kind of bank safe, all right? So just clarifying. You guys aren't getting it. Anyway, so why use social engineering? Because it works. And put it this way, one of the other stories, I'll get to it, but I don't have to know, for me to do social engineering, I don't have to know your code. I don't have to know what language you wrote anything in. I don't have to know what kind of firewall you have. I don't have to know anything about your technology. I show up in person. And when you do that, then I know, then game on, right? It's me against you. And I want you to understand, it is personal when it's me against you. One of the other trainers he was talking about, they were supposed to get into a data center and get into the server room of a data center. They had security guards on the outside of the data center. They had a security guard inside, and they had another guard inside. So he showed up as a fire extinguisher, checker, whatever. He did all the externals that he could see. Nobody challenged him, but he needed to get into the server room, and he speculated there was a fire extinguisher in the server room. So he went to the security guy, and he goes, hey, I need to get in. I know it's late. Can you help me? And he goes, well, you're not on my list. And he goes, I know. I can't help that, but I've already done all the others. You saw me do all the others. You've already seen me do the rest of the extinguishers. And he goes, yeah, I saw you. But I know there's one in the server room. Can you get me in there? And he's like, So they started talking. They both were veterans. Both were in the military. So they started a friendship. He talked to him for an hour. Social engineering, making a friendship. And the guy goes, hey, it's 5 o'clock. Do you think you could get me in the server room? He goes, yeah, I'll get you in there. So he escorted him into the server room. And I don't know what happened. I don't remember that part of the story, but the guy goes, I got to step out for a minute. I'll come back and get you. Game over. That's what he needed. He left alone in the server room. And he won, technically, right? Won. He found out the next day the company fired everybody, all the security guards on that shift that day. Fired everybody. Fired everybody. And he goes, you know what, that guy and I, we became friends. I traded my phone number with him, my email address with him. We served in units near each other. That's what social engineering does. It's a sad reality. Espionage has been around a lot longer. And I'm going to tell you this. You can, I'm not going to read the definition of it. But if I'm going to get fired for social engineering effort, it was espionage. I got fired because somebody did tradecraft against me that has been tried and true, that works and has worked for years. I wasn't social engineered. It was spying and espionage. That's what you better claim when it happens. Spying. If you guys, most of my examples are from the U.S. because sadly it hurts to see so many spies coming out of the U.S. But the illegals program, if you're aware of that, these were all Russians living in the U.S. as U.S. citizens or pretending to be U.S. citizens. And I'll go over an example. These two were husband and wife. She was the one that was working for a Democratic, as an accountant for a Democratic party. The FBI decided they were watching them. They knew most of them were doing. They wanted to see how far they would go. When she got too close to the leader of the group, that's when they said, we need to can it and bring all these people in. So they brought them all in. This is the one everyone should recognize. I have more pictures of her. She's beautiful. Ann Chapman. He was an ex-CIA officer caught in China about this time last year with a whole lot of cash in his briefcase and no explanation how he got it until they found out he traded secrets for it. Ex-CIA. Makes me sad. This is one of a good one. Subversion. Kaspersky, never mind. NSA, you know what they do, right? And they had a Chinese national that was taking secrets home that he was working on at NSA. He was installing them on his computer at home where he had Kaspersky software running as an antivirus. Kaspersky has inside their own antivirus triggers and tools and filters when they see certain things that are running on your machine to send that information back to home office, which happens to be Russia. So that's what they did, and that's when they found out they were getting what he was installing was NSA hacker tools on his PC at home, Kaspersky in Russia was getting a copy of it because they were the antivirus on his machine. He said the reason why he was doing it, he was trying to work and get a promotion at work. That's why he was installing it at home, so he could work on it and work on his English better. He'd been here 15 years, or he'd been in the US like 15 years, something like that. So he was looking for a promotion, and that's what he had done. So that's how Kaspersky got a hold of some of NSA's tools. So if you have Kaspersky installed as an antivirus, it does talk to the Home Office. The Home Office is Russia. And the owner, Kaspersky, used to be Russian intelligence. He says now it's not that way, but I don't think anybody gives it up. Did I skip one? Yeah. This one is Uber. Now I want you to realize something. Espionage doesn't have to be a foreign country spying on you. It can be another company. Uber, quit that. What did I do? It's English. Give me something. Ah. I got another one. I've got another one. Danke in German. Good Lord. Foreign language, right? Okay, anyway. So Uber got caught spying on another competitor, which I was assumed was Lyft. And this is the part that I thought was really interesting. This was from their general counsel. Uber said, we don't need to be following folks around in order to gain some competitive advantage. That's espionage. Subversion. We're better than that. To be crystal clear, to the extent anyone is working on a competitive intelligence project that involves the surveillance of other individuals, stop it now. That is subversion. That is a U.S. company on a U.S. company. So what I'm talking about does not have to be a foreign national or a foreign country doing the collection. It could be another U.S. company or another Colombian company, right? Thought that was interesting. This one was a Chinese national, Canadian, I'm sorry, Canadian friends. He is a lawyer. He was in, Med Robotics is a US company that makes body parts. They had been approached many times by China for China wanted to buy into their company, and he kept turning them down. No. If you guys aren't aware, China, this is my opinion, not official. China doesn't spend money on R&D, they go steal it. It's easier and cheaper to steal research and development than it is to do it yourself. That's my opinion. That's what they were doing. And he showed up, went down to the business. I don't know how long they've been trying to negotiate a contract, and the CEO kept saying, no. He showed up into the conference room one day in the afternoon, like 4:30, 5 o'clock. The CEO was walking out of the building. He happened to see this guy sitting in the conference room with 3 laptops open. 3 laptops were open. So he walked in and he goes, can I help you? And he goes, well, I'm here to see the CFO. And he goes, well, the CFO's not here. He's already gone home for the day. Oh, well, I'm here to see the CTO. The CTO is out of the country. He's not here either. Oh, well, I'm here to see the CEO. And he goes, that's me, and I don't know who you are. He turned him in, and he was in there trying to hack their network while he was sitting there. So his defense, he said he suffered a brain injury in an accident in 2012, struggling to accept the fact he was no longer brilliant. That was his defense for what he was trying to do. Now, that's been taken, so if you get caught, find another one. That's not a good defense. This, I don't know if you guys have ever heard the show The Americans. Okay. I watched it once, and I could never watch it again. It was true. What they talked about was what I was taught. What they were showing was some of the issues, some of the personal issues that this husband and wife team, they were Russian spies. Some of the issues they were having as spying in the U.S. were issues that I had as a counterintelligence agent too. So I couldn't watch it anymore. I'm like, you're giving away all the secrets. And it's a good show. But the Russians, well, here's the real life. This is the real life couple of these two, right there. She's the one that had the job as accountant. He was a stay-at-home dad. She would bring home the information, and he would be the one that would go up to New York, and they would catch him handing it off to somebody as they'd go up and down stairwells in the transit system. I've got a picture of it. I couldn't show it to you, but there's a picture of him handing it off as they passed each other going up down the stairs. That's when you can charge him with espionage. I cannot charge anybody with espionage unless I catch you handing the information over to another entity. If you walk off with it, but I didn't catch you passing it off, I just mishandled classified information. I have to catch the transaction. That's the rule of law. That's our law, U.S. law. But yeah, this is a couple. They have 2 kids. They were Russian. They came over here and assumed names. They came over to the U.S. and they assumed names of dead people. So I don't think they were married in real life, but they did reproduce 2 children in the U.S. And this is the show. All right, some of you that are old enough, do you remember Bullwinkle? Does that seem familiar? There is no irony here which you overlook. In a way, all right, this is interesting. John Walker, we'll go into him a little bit. He spied for 20-some-odd years as a Navy guy. The reason why I bring him up is because he got life in prison while I was in the Army. And it was because of him that now you can get the death penalty. You don't get life in prison. Now, he died in prison. He recruited his son. He recruited his brother. He recruited his best friend, and they were all in the Navy and giving out information. He tried to recruit his daughter, and she was the Army, and she turned him into the FBI. His wife turned him into the FBI 3 times before they paid attention. And we'll go over a little bit more about what he's my favorite. But this is what's kind of interesting. In warfare, you know, it's about bullets and oil. The 21st century is about information, and this is North Korea. And if you understand North Korea, they don't produce a product to produce money. They don't sell a product to produce money, but they need money. What do you think they're doing? They're stealing it. You know, Bangladesh, they took almost $1 billion. They got 81 million, but they were going after $1 billion. But that's what North Korea does. And this is what I thought was the most interesting thing, this trust but verify. If you've ever heard that, that's a Russian saying. Trust, and I can't pronounce it. As you know, I can't pronounce languages anyway, but there it is in Russian if you can speak it. But it's trust but verify, 1986, our president and Gorbachev. That was his favorite thing to say to him over and over and over. Apparently it pissed him off too, Gorbachev. But, and I wanted to show you that in 2017, we're now at the point of don't trust and verify because of the internet, because of the ease of me to get the information. Technically, I don't have to show up in your country to get your information. I can do it from my couch, my hometown. But I thought it was really interesting that the blockchain community has adopted a catchphrase. It verifies the data it receives of others to ensure its security. Now, blockchain is not going to fix espionage. If some of us have heard blockchain is such a solution to everything, but no, blockchain is not going to fix espionage. It's just, I like the don't trust but verify. You still need to do that to your friends. When you get emails from your friends, even though you think it's your friend, you still need to be cautious about clicking on links, especially if you're at work. It's just hard. If you guys been paying attention to our news last year, come back here. Maria Butina, she didn't hide that she was Russian. She did not hide anything, and we still said, okay. And we let her get close to the NRA, and we let her get close to things. It was kind of sad to realize that we're not as sensitive as we should be. Part of it is that we are an open country. We are a country of many nationalities, which makes it easier for people to come to our country, speak your native language, speak your native tongue. You do not have to pretend to be an American to mix in because we fully embrace it all, right? So it makes it easy. If you noticed, Weinstein, senator, she had a spy that was her driver for 20 years. They just found out last year. He was her personal driver for 20 years, and he spied for China. And this is the part that we teach, the CIA teaches it too. Mice, the motivations why people spy. And this now, I'm going to make you paranoid about your friends and your neighbors and your coworkers. But these are the reasons why people will spy, why they will give up the information that you are supposed to hold dear and keep classified. Money, ideology, compromise, coercion, ego, or extortion. There's my favorite one, Walker. Russia loved him. He was the best one they'd ever said they had. And they said, we trained him the right way. We told him what he was supposed to do. What he broke was that he got ego, he got arrogant, and he started spending the money that we gave him, and we told him not to. Don't spend the money because it's outside of your normal band of pay. He couldn't help it. His lavish spending got him. Now, there was a 60-minute interview with him, and they asked him, now that you know what's going to happen to you, what happened to you, what would you do differently? You know what his answer was? I wouldn't get caught. That's what I would do differently, is I wouldn't get caught. But he's the one who recruited his son, his brother, and his friend. Now, all of them got reduced sentences. I think one of them got life, too. And, of course, his daughter didn't get anything because she turned him into the FBI, and his wife turned him in 3 times. And they're blaming her for him getting caught. Dumbass. I'm sorry. Here's another one that I don't like talking about because he's a CIA. He spied for 9 years. He also married, his second wife was a Colombian spy. Ooh. They were given $2 million from the KGB for their wedding. He pled guilty. He's without parole, life in prison. I don't know what they did to his wife. They might have sent her back to your country. I forgot where I was at. But unfortunately, what he did also got people killed because he turned in people that were spying, that were Russians in Russia spying for the US. Well, Russia doesn't like that very well. Russia goes and kills them. That's how they deal with it. Here's another couple. This is the ideology part. I couldn't find any other reason why this Cuban, she worked for the government, for our US government, why she was spying. She did not like our relationships that we were having with Cuba, so she was giving information. You don't see much about her in the news because of a plea deal they did. It kept it out of the news. But this husband and wife, he got life in prison, and he spied for Cuba too. So it's the luck of the draw. If you come to the US and we catch you spying, it's the luck of the draw what kind of sentence you get. Anybody recognize these two? You recognize? That's him as her. That's her. That's him. They're both the same, right? Right. Oh. Yeah. Frequently, people who go along a treasonous path do not know they are on a treasonous path until it's too late. Most of the times, if you're going to be compromised, you're probably not going to know it until it's too late, unless you're not paying attention. But most of the time, it's probably going to be a friend that somebody befriended you and came up and said, hey, you got some information or whatever. Or they just followed you around, and they collected information on you. Reality winner. I don't know if you recognize her. She just recently got sentenced. This smirk on her face isn't nice, I guess. But anyway, she was an NSA employee down in Augusta, Georgia, that gave information away about the Russians hacking at our voting systems. And because she gave the information away, she got charged with espionage, and she's serving time. Coercion and compromise. This is my favorite, so there's going to be a lot on this. Most of it is sex, drugs, money, alcohol. You put it all together and you're doomed. So, moving on. This is well-behaved women, right? All of these women were U.S. spying for the U.S. during World War II. She's North Korean. That's what she looks like in South Korea. North, and that's what she looks like in South. There's Anna Chapman. She's Russian. And this is a place card that was given out to service members in World War II to warn them about women spies. This is nothing new. This is not a year 2000 or something issue with women doing the spying. This has been around for many, many years. Like I said, guys, you're easy. You've been taught courtesy. You've been taught to be nice. She's going to show up. Her hands are going to be full. I can't get in the door. My badge doesn't work. Will you help me out? Oh, sure. Let me let you in. Boom. That's how most of it happens. Honeypots. Probably thought it was something different, right? Say it. A swallow. Shake and bake. It works. I'm sorry, guys. It works. Beautiful woman. She needs to get in the door. How many of you open the door? Right? How many of you open the door? It's a courtesy thing. We do it. You take it advantage of. There's Anna. Who would have denied her, right? And I'll tell you a story. Again, at the hacker conference, and they had a panel of 2 men, 2 women that were red teamers, and they were like, how far would you go in your efforts to get information? And one of the young men, he was standing and goes, look at this. Who can deny this? And I swing both ways. I walked out going, oh my God, you guys nobody stands a chance now, right? And he was like, I swing both ways. I do my job. I do a good job. It's his ego, right? His job is to make sure you don't do yours right. Think about that. That's very hard to think about. That's his full-time job. Your part-time job is to keep him from doing that. Your full-time job is to go do your work. His full-time job is to get you to quit doing it right. Adversary. She's beautiful. All right, I highly recommend that you watch the movie called Red Sparrow. That's what this came from. I had the video on there, but she's a teacher. There's Jennifer Lawrence, she's the Red Sparrow. What they're teaching her how to be is the honeypot, and they're telling her what she has to do to compromise people and get them to give up their information. You become whatever that person needs. You figure out whatever that person needs, and you become what that person needs, whether it's sexual or anything else. And what she was telling her is that you got to give up your own morality. The government owns you. You owe the government back. And this is what you'll do. You give up your own sense of morality for the government because it's the greater good of this country to do it this way. And as a woman, if I was asked or pressured, that's the only way you're going to make me do some of that. What they did is they had her mother, and they were holding her mother. And they were, until if you do what we want you to do, we'll take care of your mother. They didn't have her in a prison. They were just doing innuendo. And, we're watching your mother. You need to train. You need to become the honeypot that we want you to be. So it's a real good movie. I believe it's true. Okay, don't try and read that, I swear. I'm sorry, but it had to put it up there. But Longtree, he was he was a U.S. Marine stationed at the Russian embassy in Moscow. He was a guard. He rode the train home from work, struck up a friendship with a woman he kept seeing on the train. They struck up a friendship. Over the time of the friendship, she started asking him questions about his job. He eventually gave her the schematic of the embassy that they were building in Russia, of the U.S. embassy they were building in Moscow. And because of what he gave her, every floor, every wall, every ceiling had a bug in it. We walked away. Once we found out what he had done, we walked away from the embassy and had to build a brand new one. But there was no fixing the one that we had put there. Does that make sense? Too much was given away. Just by a friendship that he had on the train. Now, he fell in love with her. But when he got stationed, he was sent to Vienna on his next duty station. That's when he finally told somebody what he had done after they had built the embassy. So we had to walk away from it. This was recently, I don't know if you guys recognize this one. Iranian hackers took over a young woman's Facebook page. She was a photographer. So all your open Facebook stuff, if I want to take your identity, I can. I'll go to your Facebook page and I'll take your pictures and I'll assume your identity. That's what they did to her. And they had her reach out to men, middle-aged men, that were technicians and engineers in the oil and gas industry. And they befriended them, struck up friendships with them, and then she started sending pictures to them to click on. Guess what was embedded in the pictures? Then they started capturing what they were installing on their machines and blah-da-da-da-da. So, but technically, an innocent woman did not know her identity had been taken and was being used by the Iranians to capture information by other people. So Facebook is your friend, right? Stop it. Now, this is old, but if you guys remember Madame Butterfly, this is Madame Butterfly. That's what he looks like in real life. Madame Butterfly. That was his lover for 18 years. He convinced him that he gave birth to a child. I'll be honest with you, I did look up to see how he could assume that this guy didn't have a sex change, but he convinced him that he gave birth to a son. He was unaware. He claimed the son as his own. What they did is they had a relationship, they broke up, he went back to China. While he was over there, China gave him a 4-year-old son from an orphanage and said, take him back over there and pass him off as his son. That's what he did. He believed it. He was a French national. He believed it, claimed him as his son, and gave birth to their son. But that's what he looks like, is Madame Butterfly. Can you see that? But that's what he looks like in real life. Like that guy said, who will deny this? And I swing both ways. You guys think this is social engineering? I'm going to ask you that. You think that's social engineering? I'm not going to call it that. That's minimizing the impact. To me, social engineering is minimizing the severity of the event. It is espionage at its truest form. Ego. This one kind of goes with all the others. Mostly, I think money or sex is what most people start with. Mostly, it's the money. I'm going to offer you money because, I'm going to find somebody. I'm not going to offer it to the CEO of the company. I'm going to go offer it to the janitor, to the data center person, the key entry person, someone who looks like they need the money. I'm going to go offer you the money. I'm going to work on you. I'm not going to go offer it to the CEO. So, but ego then comes into it like Walker did. Money started him, and then his ego got it when he was so successful and how he was able to get away with it for so long. It then, patted him on the back. I got over. Recognize him? Everybody should recognize him. Everybody recognize Snowden? I'm going to tell you something. If Snowden comes back to the United States, he will be arrested, and he will be charged with espionage. Or he damn well better be. And I know there's a lot of me and a lot of other people that will be sitting there waiting to read him his rights when he walks across the line and charge him with it. What he did, he freely admitted I gave that information away. See, the rule of the law says I have to have you giving it to another country. He admitted it. The other country admits it. I don't have to prove anything. He did it on his own. He's admitted his own espionage. He will get life in prison or the death sentence unless something else happens. He better stay where he's at. That he's alive where he's at. And to be honest with you, in a way, he's not above using him. He's an embarrassment to the U.S., in my opinion. Keep him there. Keep him alive. Make him an embarrassment to us for what he had done. I'm okay with that. Just don't come back to my country. Oh, also, he won't admit. He said, I've done nothing wrong, but some of the information he gave away, people died over too. Like I said, classified information isn't so much the information that is classified, it's how we got it that's sensitive. If you gave it to me, you're the one now it's sensitive on, right? They're going to go after you. They're going to go after you. It's not so much the information, it's the channels, how I got it, that is sensitive. So what Soviet Union does, when we take that information, they go and kill the people that has access to that information. There's another one. This one he fully admits it was his ego. He was passed over promotion. He was an FBI. And he said, it was a trigger to keep score, the money was, but you passed me over. Look what I did to you. You couldn't catch me. So I gave my information away. Ego. Just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they are not after you. Unfortunately, I do want you to be a little paranoid. I do want you to be aware. One of the stories that kind of got me was, I was talking to a friend, like when I walked out of the room and the guy goes, hey, I swing both ways. I was like, wow, what would they go? And he goes, I can do one better. We were told to get the system administrator's user ID and password. All right, how many of you are sysadmins with domain admins to the network? Okay. They were told to go get your credentials to the network. Go get yours. That was what they were hired to do, a pen test company or a red team company. So what they did is they profiled. They saw that he was a young man, recently married. His wife was either just pregnant or just had a baby. But they noticed he liked the women on his Facebook page. So they had a beautiful lesbian on their team, and they asked her, would you compromise him, get him in a compromising situation? Would you be willing to do that? She said, sure. So what she did is they got her a job at the company. She befriended him, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, kind of convinced him to meet her at a hotel motel room. She said she would get into sexy lingerie, which she did. So they got pictures of her going into the motel room. They got pictures of him walking to the hotel motel room. They got him in the doorway with her in sexy lingerie inside the room. He walks in, he shuts the door, and she goes, no, and walks away. Well, I don't need any of that. I got you walking up to the door, right? So the next day, they sent him a note. Said, we want your user ID and password to the network. He responded back and said, no. So the next day, they sent him pictures of him at the hotel with her in the room. We will tell your wife and we'll tell your CEO, give us user ID and password that you have to the domain. He said, okay. Game over. Now, how much code did I have to know about your network? How much OS did I need to know that you had? How did I even have to know your firewalls? I didn't have to know lick about your network because I went after you as an individual. They won. And that's how they got, Now, I asked the project lead, why did you go to that depth? And he goes, I was trying to prove to the company they didn't have a policy to help that young man in case he faced that scenario. Now, I can tell you this, after years of being in the business, not in this business, but in the business, I have never seen a policy that addressed when I got compromised in a sexual compromise, money compromise, what I was supposed to do. So he was right. There is not a business that has a policy that helps you out in that area. So, but I have talked to CISOs. If you are being compromised in such a situation, do not go tell him. He goes, go to the police. And you know what? Yes, go to the police. Because if that red teamer is going to use those kind of tactics against you, take his ass to the police. I want him chewed out. You're going to do that? You know what? If you go to that degree, put it this way, those are the red teamers. If I can't make it through your network, I'm going to show up in person, right? I'm determined to get what I'm going after. So if I can't make it through your defenses, great. Unfortunately, they're going to show up on the premises. Spies like us. 100% of the men didn't notice King Kong in the picture. Do you guys see it now? That's all it takes. Sweet, I was right. See, I was right. Guys are easy. Oh, and actually, even a female goes, I'm looking at her too. She's pretty. But I did notice the monkey. This was, we talked about it this morning. Chad brought it up. But I thought this is really good. My 0 days. This Edward McCabe, he's a red teaming company. My 0-day exploits are your employees. Right? Behavioral infosec. What I want you to be is more self-aware of you as an individual, more than security parameters, because you'll break the rules But don't let them break your integrity. Don't let them take and compromise you as an individual to get what they want. And if it hurts, turn them in. Don't give them what they want. Don't try and fight them off. If you think you're being compromised, go to the police. Don't try and, hack them. No. If it's a nation state, you're overwhelmed already. This is what the reminder. Indicators don't always equate to an actual foreign collection threat. They just can serve as a signal of an effort that might be going on. But like I said, I've talked to some CISOs, and they're like, please don't come and tell me if you're being targeted this way. And don't come tell me. I don't do that work anymore. I've tried to tell my U.S. friends, don't admit things to me, because I don't want to have to turn you in either. But this is what I like. There is no patch for an untrained user and even an experienced security professional who forgets in the heat of the moment to follow what they've been taught. And that is true. Even all of us that have been doing it for years, all of you that have been doing it for years, you inadvertently will click on a link. You will inadvertently say something, probably to your neighbor, grocery store, restaurant. You never know who's listening. That's it. Any question?